Hello, my name is Rene Castro and welcome to Building Video Games with Python, Lesson 8. In this lesson we're going to explore the mouse object and see how we can use it to control the crosshairs in our game. We're also going to explore a programming concept called AND, which is a logical operator that will enable us to make a more complex decision in our game. So let's get to it. Let's review what we have so far. So I'm going to run the game. And we have the three images, the zombie, the turkey, the crosshairs. They're kind of bouncing on their own. And you can see based off of which ones collide, we either get an increase in the score or we get a decrease in the score. We want to change this up though, because the crosshairs should not be moving on their own. We want to let the player have full control of the crosshair. We also want to encourage the player to shoot the zombie. So we're going to require the player to actually click on the zombie in order for it to quote-unquote die, which we're going to work on in a future lesson. So let's modify our code a little bit. First thing we're going to do is we're going to take away anything that's going to make the crosshair move on its own. So we're going to take the move command away, and we're going to take away the set speed. We're going to keep the if statement because that's still the same. Regardless of how the crosshair is moving, we still want to have an increase in the score when the crosshair collides with the zombie. But let's go back to our initial challenge here, which is we want to change the way the crosshair was moving to have it move to wherever the mouse is. So where do you think we need to explore first? So hopefully at this point you've kind of gotten used to the first thing you have to figure out is which object. Now because crosshair is an image, our solution has to reside somewhere in the image object. So let's scroll down to that. Okay. So let's write crosshair, our image variable. And let's see if we can find a function that gives us an indication that's going to allow us to move to a specific location. So scrolling down, we see our old move command, which is inappropriate because that's used to have it move on its own. We don't want that. We want to move to a specific location, the mouse's location. So scrolling through, and we come across move to. And it wants an X and a Y. Sounds like something we can use then. So we're going to say crosshair move to X and Y. Who's X and Y? Well, where do we want the crosshair to move to? Well, sounds like we want it to move it to the mouse. It's going to require us to kind of look at the mouse object at this point. We haven't done that yet. So far we've only explored the game object and the image object. In this lesson we're going to explore the mouse object. And I'm going to increase this to full screen. And we can see the mouse object, it's a rather simple object in that it doesn't have any additional functions. It's really just a constructor and its variables. And a mouse object has an X and a Y, exactly what we're looking for. While we're here, I'm also going to point out this one, left click. So this particular variable will enable us to detect if the player has clicked on the left button. It's going to play into later in the lesson. So just remember that a mouse also has a left click variable. So going back to this, we want to move the crosshairs to the mouse's X and the mouse's Y. So that's what I'm going to write. Mouse.x and mouse.y. Now some students will be quick to say, Mr. Castro, this is a variable. This is an object. At some point, don't we have to create a variable to represent this object? And that is absolutely correct. This mouse variable has to be somewhere. We didn't create it in our game. So if it's not in our game, it must be in our game library. So let's scroll down and see if we can find that mouse variable. And here it is. So in the game library, I've gone ahead and created a variable for the mouse, a variable for the keyboard, and a variable for the joystick, realizing that you're going to want to use one of these three types of inputs in your game. So it's kind of save you a little bit of work without having to have you explicitly create in your video game a mouse variable, a keyboard variable, a joystick variable. I've gone ahead and done that for you in the game library. But you're more than welcome to create your own variables off on the side. So let's go back to our game and let's run it. Let's see what we have so far. Okay, so you can see I can control the crosshairs. And let's check to see if the if statement still works. So now I can follow the zombie, and you can see that the score is just increasing. Because again, at this point, the game is only doing what we told it to do, which is if the crosshairs collide with the zombie, increase the score by 2. So we're going to improve on this a little bit this game, in that we're going to require the player to at least have to click in order to quote-unquote shoot the zombie. So let's make that modification. So we need to have this if statement, this decision that the game is making, be better, be smarter. We can't just have the crosshairs increase the score whenever it collides with a zombie. We want to have the score increase not only when the crosshairs collide with the zombie, but also when the player presses the left button or clicks on the left button. I'm going to say it a little bit differently. Hopefully you could pick up on the keywords. Actually, hopefully you could pick up on the whole code. Alright, so here we go. So if the crosshairs collide with the zombie and the player has clicked on the left mouse button, that's when we want the score to increase. So what's the keyword I need to add here? Give you a hint if you think back to the objective. Alright. We need to add the logical operator AND. So if the crosshairs collide with the zombie and the player has clicked on the left mouse button, then we want the score to increase. Now I'm going to review this a little bit in terms of the logical operator AND. So let's say the crosshairs have collided with the zombie, but the player hasn't clicked on the left mouse button. Well, then the score won't increase. Again, because the way the AND works is that both sides need to happen. Both sides need to be true in order for the whole statement to be true. Just like the other half could be. Let's say the crosshairs haven't collided with the zombie, but the player has clicked on the left mouse button. Okay, congratulations player for clicking on the left button, but you have to actually click on the left button and collide with the zombie. You have to click on the zombie for the score to increase, and that's what this if statement's saying now. So let's try it. So here's our game. I'm simply going to try to follow the zombie. We'll see there's no increase in score, and now I'm going to start clicking. I'm not sure if you can hear my mouse, but I am clicking. You'll notice that the score is going up a lot slower because I have to actually click on the zombie to get a score increase. Now this is still not ultimately what we want to do in the game. In future lessons we're going to modify this a little bit more, in that the zombie is going to pop up in different locations once we've shot it. There's definitely some add-ons we can have later on that won't be part of the video series, but I'm going to suggest it as things that you can practice to improve on the game. Let's go back to our objectives and let's review what we have. So in this particular lesson we explored the mouse object, specifically its X and Y variables, as well as the left click variable, which allowed us to detect if the player has pressed the left mouse button. We used that in conjunction with the logical operator AND to have it so that now the player has to click on the zombie in order to get an increase in the score. So hopefully you're excited. We're getting there. We only have a couple more lessons and we're done with this game. So thank you for watching.